there is a door in the earth.
Every myth tells you a young girl was dragged through it, screaming, stolen from the sunlight, a victim of the god of the dead. And every myth is lying to you. Not about the door. The door is real. They are lying about the girl. Because the child who was pulled into the dark did not stay a child. She learned the names of the dead. She learned where the rivers of the underworld begin and where they end. She learned to sit on a throne of bone and not look away. And when she was finally offered the chance to go home, to her mother, to the sun, she made a choice no one expected. This is not the story of a girl who was taken. This is the story of how the gentlest thing in the world became the one thing even the gods would not cross. This is the other side of Persephone.
Before the underworld, before the crown, before any of it, there was a meadow. And in that meadow, there was a girl. The Greeks did not even call her Persephone, not at first. They called her Korē. Korē. It means simply the maiden, the girl. Think about that. The most famous queen of the dead in all of mythology began her life without a name of her own. She was not a person yet. She was a role, a daughter, a season, a promise of spring that had not yet learned it could become something else. Her father was Zeus, king of the gods, of course, though he was a distant kind of father, the sort who arranges your life in rooms you are not allowed to enter. Her mother was Demeter. And to understand Persephone, you have to understand the love of Demeter, because it was the most dangerous force in this entire story. More dangerous than Hades, more dangerous than death. Demeter was the goddess of the harvest, of grain, of grass, of every green and growing thing. When she was happy, the world ate. When she grieved, the world starved. And she loved her daughter the way the earth loves the sun, completely, desperately, without limit. But here is the quiet truth the storytellers rarely say out loud. A love that big can also be a cage. Demeter kept Korē close, always close. She was raised among the daughters of ocean, watched, guarded, adored. She gathered flowers, she sang. She was kept soft and kept young and kept hers. Korē had never made a single decision that mattered. She had never been told no, because she had never been allowed near anything that required it. She was perfect. She was protected. And she was bored in a way she did not yet have the word for. Now, a young goddess who has never been allowed to want anything for herself is a young goddess who, one day, is going to reach for something. And the gods were counting on it. It begins, as these things often do, with a conspiracy she knew nothing about. High on Olympus, far above the meadow where Korē gathered her flowers, a bargain was being struck. The god of the underworld, Hades, lord of the dead, the eldest brother of Zeus himself, had come with a request. Not for an army, not for gold, not for anything a king might expect. He had come for her. And here is the first thing the storytellers rush past.
Hades did not steal her in the dark like a thief. He asked. He went to her father. He went to Zeus, and he asked for Korē's hand. And Zeus said yes, quietly, the way a king signs a treaty he does not intend to explain. He gave away his daughter without telling her mother, without telling Korē. He knew, he must have known, that Demeter would never allow it. So he simply did not ask her. He looked at the girl gathering flowers in the sun, and he traded her away like a coin. Why would Hades want her at all? Think about who he was, the richest of the gods, for everything that dies comes down to him in the end, and the loneliest. A king of a silent kingdom. No festivals, no worshippers singing his name, no warmth. Only the endless grey procession of the dead, drifting past his throne forever. Some say he had seen Korē in the upper world, and that something in all that light undid him. Some say the dead themselves needed a queen, someone who still remembered the smell of flowers, someone who could be merciful. Keep that thought. A king of the dead who wants, more than anything, one living thing that can still feel the sun. It will matter later when you decide who the real prisoner in this story was. But Korē knew none of this. No one had told her. No one ever told her anything. She was in the field of Nyssa, the most beautiful meadow in all the world. Soft grass, roses, crocuses, violets, hyacinths. Her companions, the daughters of ocean, had wandered ahead, laughing, their voices growing faint. And the sun was warm on her shoulders, and then she saw it. A flower she had never seen before. A single narcissus, but not an ordinary one. From one slender stem bloomed 100 flowers at once, and it shone with its own pale light, and its scent, the old hymn says its scent reached the whole wide heaven above, and the whole earth below, and even the salt swell of the sea. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. It was also a trap. Gaia, the earth herself, the grandmother of the gods, had grown it, on purpose, as a favor to Hades, a lure planted in the grass to draw the girl away from the safety of her friends, to make her wander, to make her reach. And here is the detail the old story does not want you to see clearly. Korē was not simply plucked out of nowhere, a passive thing in the wrong place. She was offered something, small, beautiful, impossible to resist. And she chose it. She turned away from the others. She walked toward it, alone. And she reached out with both hands to take, for the first time in her life, something that was only hers. Perhaps the very first thing she had ever truly wanted. And the instant her fingers closed around the stem, the earth tore open. Not a crack, not a crevice, a chasm, wide and black and bottomless, split the meadow in two. And out of it, drawn by horses the color of midnight, came a golden chariot, and a god crowned in shadow. Hades did not speak. He did not woo her or explain or ask a second time. He seized her by the waist and turned the black horses and drove down into the dark, while she screamed. For her friends, for her father, for her mother, for anyone in heaven or earth who would come. No one came. Zeus heard her. Of course, he heard. He was the god of the sky. He hears everything. He simply looked away. He had already signed the treaty. To answer her now would be to admit what he had done. Only 2 others heard her cry and would remember it. The sun, Helios, who sees all things from above and said nothing, not yet. And a goddess of the crossroads, hidden in her cave, who heard a young voice screaming up through the rock and could not tell who it was. Remember her. Her name was Hecate. She will matter soon. And as the earth sealed itself shut over the gold's head, as the last ribbon of daylight narrowed to a thread and then to nothing at all, far above, in a field of wheat, a mother suddenly stood very still and felt her heart, and did not with numbers why. The maiden was gone, and the world was about to learn exactly what a mother's grief can do.
Demeter searched. For 9 days and 9 nights she searched the whole of the earth. She did not eat, she did not drink, she did not bathe or rest or sleep or stop. She tore 2 pine branches from the slopes of Etna and lit them in the mountain's fire, and she carried those 2 torches across the world, calling one name into the dark. Korē, Korē, Korē. No answer came, not from the mountains, not from the sea, not from a single god on Olympus, for they all knew, and not one of them would meet her eyes. Only one voice answered her in all that silence, a goddess of the crossroads, of the moon, of the in-between places, Hecate. She came to Demeter carrying her own torch, and she told her the only truth she had. I heard her cry out, but I did not see who took her. And so the 2 of them went together to the one who sees everything, to Helios, the sun. And the sun, at last, told her the truth. Your daughter is below. Hades has taken her to make her queen of the dead. And Zeus, your brother, her father, gave his blessing. Imagine it, learning that your child has been stolen, and that the one who allowed it, the one who handed her over, was the one person who was supposed to protect her. Something in Demeter broke that day, and when the goddess of the harvest breaks, the whole world feels the crack run through it. She left Olympus. She would not sit at the table of the gods who had betrayed her. She put off her divinity like a cloak, and such the form of an old woman, bent, grey, hollowed out with grief, and she wandered among mortals who did not know her. And it was in this disguise that she came, footsore and broken, to a town called Eleusis, and sat down by a well. And here the story does something strange and beautiful. It stops being about gods for a moment and becomes about kindness. The daughters of the king of Eleusis found her there, an old woman by the water, and they were gentle with her. They brought her home. The queen, Metanera, gave the grieving stranger a place by the fire.
And for a long while, Demeter sat in silence, refusing food, refusing wine, lost somewhere far away. Until a servant girl named Iambe, a plain, sharp-tongued, joking girl, began to tease her, to jest, to say things so irreverent and so foolish that at last the goddess of the harvest, the mother with the broken heart, laughed. Just once. The prospects of light in all that dark. And in her gratitude, Demeter took the queen's infant son, a little boy named Demophon, to raise as her own. And she began to do something extraordinary. Each night, in secret, she fed him ambrosia, the food of the gods, and held him in the heart of the farm, burning away his mortality, breath by breath, night by night, to make the child immortal. To make herself, perhaps, a new child, to replace the one that was taken. But one night the book's mother saw it, saw her baby in the flames, and she screamed. And the spell broke. Demeter rose up out of the old woman's body in her full and terrible glory, blazing with divine light, and the mortals fell back in terror. "Foolish people," she said, "you have undone your own son's immortality." And seeing the commanded them to build her a great temple at Eleusis, and there she shut herself away, alone, with Tex, grief. And while she grieved, the world began to die. The grain stopped growing. The seed rotted in the cold soil. The Uns dragged the plough across the fields, back and forth, and nothing rose behind them. Nothing. The Gendher went out of the world like a flame pinched between two fingers. The cattle starved. Then the people. Whole visitors lay buck and pictuiture hour about up. The Etz, grave. And this is the part of the story that turns everything on its head. Because the gods of Olympus had bound that a young goddess was stolen. They had not lifted a single finger for Korē. Her scream had meant nothing to them. But now the humans dying. And dying humans light on altars. They burn no offerings. No sweet smoke rises up to heaven. And the gods, who feed on worship the way we feed on bread, suddenly felt their own thrones grow cold. And all at once, Zeus cared. Not because a daughter was southern, not Top's heart when Brooke, with a chronic cap of protections, had taken the entire world hostage and was winning. Let that truth settle for a moment. Gentle Demeter, goddess of bread and cords and the yellow wheat, with long weapon of options, no shedding to sup one social death crow, until cats had our daughter back, had brought all of creation, gods and mortals alike, to its knees.
Let us go back, down, beneath the chasm, into the months that almost no one ever tells you about. Everyone remembers the abduction. Everyone remembers the grieving mother and the dying world. But almost no one stops to ask the question that the whole myth turns on. What happened to Persephone while she was down there? The oldest version of the story goes very quiet here, and that quiet is its own kind of answer. At first, she did not eat, not a crumb, not a drop, because a captive who refuses food is a captive who is still fighting. For days,
Perhaps far longer, for time runs strangely in the land of the dead, she sat in the great hall and would not touch a single thing that was offered to her. Hunger was the one thing she could still command when she could command nothing else. It was her last act of defiance, and she held to it. And Hades did not force her. This is the part of the myth the later, prettier tellings smoothed away. In the oldest stories, Hades is not cruel to her. He does not torment her, or chain her, or break her. He gives her a throne beside his own. He sets a crown upon her. He calls her not his prisoner, but his queen. And he tells her something no one in her whole life had ever told her. Down here, you will not be a daughter. You will not be a maiden or someone's perfect protected child. Down here, you will rule. I want to be careful with you here. I am not telling you this was love. The oldest stories do not call it love. He took her against her will, and her mother's grief was real, and the wrong that was done to her was real. We should not dress that up. But I am telling you that something shifted in those long months in the dark. The girl who had never once been allowed to make a decision was now surrounded by nothing but them. The dead came before her throne, the lost, the grieving, the shades of kings and children, and they did not see a frightened girl. They bowed. They called her my lady. They saw a queen. And slowly, in the silence of that vast kingdom, the maiden who had no name of her own began to grow into the one she had been given, Persephone. And then Hermes arrived with the message from above, "You may go home. Your mother is destroying the world. You are free." And here, the myth places its single most important detail, the hinge on which the entire story swings. Before she left, Persephone ate 6 seeds of a pomegranate. Just 6, a handful of small red seeds from the one fruit that grows in the kingdom of the dead. And there is a law down there, older than Zeus, older than the gods themselves, written into the bones of the world. Whoever tastes the food of the underworld belongs to the underworld forever. It contrary not by Zeus, not by Demeter, not by anyone. By eating those 6 seeds, Persephone bound herself to the dark. From that moment, she could never again belong wholly to the world above. She had eaten the food of the dead, and the dead do not let go of what is theirs. And now, the question that has haunted this myth for 3,000 years. Why did she eat them? The gentle version says she was tricked, that Hades, knowing exactly what the fruit would do, pressed it on her, slipped it to her, to keep her bound to him forever. And there was even a witness, a gardener of the underworld named Ascalaphus, who saw her eat and who told, who pointed his finger and said, "She tasted it, I saw." And do you know what being of him? For that single act of telling, Persephone, or her mother, turned him its screech owl, sealed his voice into a thing that shrieks in the dark and warns of death. The first person to call her a victim, she silenced forever. So think carefully about that. If she were only a prisoner, tricked into eating,
Why punish the words who exposed the trick? Why silence the witness who was on her mother's side? What if she knew? What if the Gark who called for the first time in her existence been handed a throne, a kingdom, and a name that belonged to her and no one else, understood perfectly where the secrets would do, and swallowed them anyway? Not as a captive, as a queen choosing to keep her crown. We know for certain the meth guards its secret jealously. The notes of seeds even changes from telling to telling. Some say 3, some say 4, some say 7. And with each version the words tracks. 1 month of darkness for every seed she swallowed. As if the storytellers themselves could deeper quite about of the dark she chose.
But the result is the most perfect compromise in all of Greek mythology. Because of those seeds, Persephone could not stay above forever, and could not stay below forever. So Zeus divided her between the 2 worlds. For part of every year, 1 month for every seed, she would descend and take her throne and reign as Queen of the Dead. And for the rest, she would rise and return to the sunlight and to her mother's arms. And that is why we have seasons. When Persephone goes down into the dark, Demeter mourns, and the warmth drains out of the world, and nothing grows. That is autumn and winter. And when Persephone climbs back up into the light, her mother's joy breaks open across the whole earth, and the first green shoots push up through the cold ground to meet her. Spring is not the absence of death. Spring is a daughter walking back out of it. But do not mistake this for the sad little story of a girl passed back and forth between 2 houses like a child caught between her parents. Because for half of every single year, Persephone is not a visitor in the land of the dead. She is its ruler. And what she does with that power is the part of her story they truly do not want you to forget.
We are taught to picture Persephone as something that happens, a girl that things are done to, taken, traded, divided, carried down, carried up. But open the myths that come after the pomegranate, the ones that almost never get told, and you meet someone else entirely. You meet a queen that the other gods do not dare to cross. Consider Adonis, the most beautiful mortal who ever lived. When he was still a baby, the goddess of love herself, Aphrodite, hid him away in a chest and gave that chest to Persephone for safekeeping in the underworld. But Persephone opened it, and she looked upon the child's beauty, and she decided to keep him for herself. And when Aphrodite came down to demand him back, Persephone refused her flatly. Understand who that is. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and desire, one of the most powerful forces in all the cosmos, and the so-called victim, the stolen girl, looked her in the eye and said, "No." The quarrel grew so bitter that it had to be carried all the way up to Zeus to settle. And not even Zeus could simply give the boy to one of them. He ruled that Adonis would spend part of the year above with Aphrodite and part of the year below with Persephone.
The very same bargain the world had forced upon her, she now forced upon the goddess of love. Then there is Orpheus, the greatest musician who ever lived. When his young wife Eurydice died, he did the impossible. He walked into the kingdom of the dead, alive, with nothing but his lyre, to beg for her back. And who do you imagine he had to convince? Read the old tellings closely. It was not Hades who wept. It was Persephone, whose heart was broken by his song. Persephone who was moved. Persephone who turned to the throne and persuaded it to do something it had never done before and would almost never do again. To let a soul that belonged to the dead walk back toward the light. The power to return the dead to life passed through her hands. Hers, not his. When Psyche, a mortal girl chasing the love of a god through impossible trials, was given her final deadly task, where do you think she was sent? Down into the underworld, to beg a single drop of divine beauty from its queen, not from its king, from its queen. Again and again, when the great stories need someone with absolute authority over death itself, they do not go to Hades' door. They come to Persephone, and they kneel, and they ask. And do not mistake her mercy for softness. When two heroes, Theseus and Pirithous, grew arrogant enough to descend into the underworld to carry her off, to do to her again exactly what had been done to her in that meadow, she did not scream, she did not run. She invited them to sit on two great stone chairs. And the moment they sat, the rock grew around them and coiled up their limbs, and they forgot their own names, and they could not rise. The chairs of forgetfulness. For years they sat there, living monuments to what happens to those who underestimate her. The girl who was once lured and taken had become the trap. And there is a darker face still, the one the mystics whispered about. In the secret Orphic tellings, Zeus himself came to Persephone in the underworld in the form of a great serpent. And from that union she bore a son, Zagreus, the prospects a child meant to inherit the whole cosmos. The mother of the god of rebirth was the queen of the dead. Of course she was. Who else could give birth to restrain but the woman who walks out of the grave every spring? Even her jealousy reshaped the world. A river nymph named Minthe boasted that she was lovelier than Persephone, that she would win Hades back. And Persephone crushed her ickfoot, and from the broken knots sprang the first sweet mint, fragrant only because of it had been trampled. Another Nemki became the white poplar underworld. The king did not suffer rivals. She terms them into the fall makeup of her kingdom. Do you see what has condemned? The child who was never once allowed a single choice, being the keeper of the final choice, life or death, for gods and yours alike. The maiden with no name of her own became a queen so absolute that local itself and music itself and Expir all had to come down into your dark and brow and ask. That is not a victim, that of a transformation. and the people of the ancient world, young god world, to questions, with preparations that stories almost no opening in all. They made for the foot of whether their greatest and most closely guarded.
For nearly 2,000 years, longer than Christianity has yet existed, there was a secret kept in Greece. It was kept at that same town, Eleusis, the place where a grieving old woman once sat down by a well, and it was guarded so completely, so absolutely, that to reveal what happened there was a crime punishable by death. Tens of thousands of people were initiated into it across the centuries. Emperors, philosophers, Plato among them, ordinary farmers and slaves and merchants. And in 2,000 years, not one of them ever wrote down what they saw inside that hall. We still do not know fully what happened in there. But we know who it was for. We know whose story it told. We know whose descent and whose grief and whose return those initiates walked into the dark to relive. Demeter and Persephone. Once a year, a great procession would set out from Athens and walk the sacred road to Eleusis. Miles of pilgrims carrying torches, singing, crossing a bridge where masked figures hurled jokes and insults at them, an echo of the servant girl Ember, who once made a grieving goddess laugh. They fasted, as Demeter had fasted. They drank a sacred barley drink called the Kikion, the same humble drink the goddess had accepted in her sorrow. And then, by torchlight, in the great hall, they were shown something. We do not know what. A vision, a sacred object, an ear of wheat held up in silence, some say. A reenactment of the descent and the return. Whatever it was, those who saw it came out changed. They came out unafraid, because Persephone had done the unthinkable. She had gone down into the dark, the place that waits for every one of us, and she had come back. And not just once. Every single year, she proved it again. Death was not a wall. Death was a season. And if a goddess could rise up out of it, then perhaps the initiates dared to believe, so could they. To the people of the ancient world, Persephone was not a cautionary tale about a girl who wandered too far from her mother. She was the most comforting figure they had. She was their proof, renewed with every spring, that the dark gives things back. And it was not only at Eleusis. The women of Greece kept their own festival, the Thesmophoria, for Demeter and the maiden. 3 days, women only, no men permitted, calling on mother and daughter for the fertility of the fields and of themselves. And far to the west, in the Greek cities of southern Italy, at a place called Locri, Persephone was honored above almost every other god, not as a goddess of death at all, but as the great protector of marriage, of women, of the passage from one life into another. They left her thousands of little clay tablets, showing her enthroned, crowned, sovereign. To them, she was not the stolen girl. She was the queen who understood what it costs to leave one world and enter another, because she had done it herself. And this is why her 2 names matter so much. Korē, the maiden, the girl of spring, of flowers, of the sunlit field, and Persephone, the dread queen, whose name the Greeks were sometimes afraid to even speak aloud, calling her only the maiden or the pure one, lest they draw the gaze
of the throne below. The same goddess, two faces, light and dark, life and death, the girl in the meadow and the queen on the throne of bone. We are taught to see those as opposites, a before and an after, the innocence and the thing that destroyed it. But the ones who knew her best, the ones who kept her secret for 2,000 years, understood something we have forgotten. They are not opposites at all. They are the same person, finally made whole.
So let us return one last time to where we began, to the door in the earth, and to the lie we have told about the girl who went through it. We call it the abduction of Persephone, the rape of Proserpine. We have built the entire myth around the worst thing that ever happened to her, the single moment she was taken, as if that moment is the whole of who she is. We have done this to her for 3,000 years. We have kept her frozen at the edge of that meadow, hand outstretched, mouth open in a scream, forever caught in the instant before the dark swallows her. But that is not where her story ends. That is only where it begins. Because the girl who climbed back up out of the earth was not the girl who was dragged down into it. She went down as Korē, the maiden, the daughter, the season, the girl with no name of her own, protected into helplessness, loved into a cage. And she came back as Persephone, queen of the dead, keeper of the door between the worlds, the one who decides who returns and who remains, the one whom even Aphrodite must bargain with, whom even heroes cannot conquer, whom even Zeus, the king of the gods, could not simply command back up into the sunlight, because she had made herself something he no longer fully controlled. She did not merely survive the underworld, she inherited it. And maybe, that is why she ate the seeds. Not because she was tricked, not because she was trapped, but because somewhere down in that dark, a girl who had never in her life owned a single thing was finally handed a crown. And she understood, perhaps for the very first time, that to go back to the meadow forever would be to go back to being no one's equal and everyone's child. To be Korē again. To be a flower someone else was always reaching for. And she chose the crown. 6 seeds, half a year in the dark. A throne that was hers and hers alone. It was the first real choice she had ever going to make. And she made it. We wanted her to be a tragedy, a warning, a pretty girl that a terrible thing compared to. But the people who knew her best, the ones who walked the sacred road and drank the Kikion and kept her secret in the dark for 20 centuries, did not weep for Persephone. They thanked her, because she walked into the one place none of us escape, and she came back wearing a crown, and she promised with every single spring that the dark is not the end of the story.
The girl they pitied became the queen they prayed to. We just kept telling the wrong half of her sword. This was the other side of Persephone.
If you have stayed with her all the way down and all the way back up into the light, then you already understand what this channel is for. We do not come here for the heroes. We come for the ones history decided to misjudge. The taken, the cursed, the buried. The ones we called monsters because it was easier than understanding them. Her father was one of them. If you have not yet met our Hades, you should. The god everyone fears, and the brother who looked away while his own daughter was carried screaming into the dark. Their two stories are halves of the same old wound. And next, we go deeper still, to a goddess of the crossroads, of the moon, of magic and of ghosts. The one who answered Demeter in the dark when not one other god would. They called her a witch and taught the world to fear her. They were wrong about her too. Her name is Hecate. So light a candle for the misjudged. Subscribe and stay here with us on the other side of Olympus. The ember is still burning.